Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Po TV. My name is Sasha Star, and our today guest is Jim Eid from Eid Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. It's great to be here.
It's very good to have you here because we just had a very good show, financial show on Wednesday, Modern Investing, and there's a lot of course, association between chess and investing, and we know that a lot of very good chess players, grandmasters, international masters, become very good at investing,
Yes.
and not too many investors became good chess players like grandmasters and masters, or even less than that. That's peculiarity, of course, and I'm not going to explain why is that, but everyone can look into it
You
and
know,
find.
at one point, investment firms were actually looking for grandmasters and
Yes.
soliciting them. And I know a couple of them that were contacted and started in things like currency trading and different types of investments because they thought that the chess analytics applied. And there is a direct correlation.
Yeah, of course there is. And now, very interesting concept we discussed in last modern investing. It's a concept of um, mm, market efficiency. The market knows all. Um,
There's an invisible hand.
yeah. So apparently, it's applicable to chess because if you will take the position where the chess game starts, it's all well known setup
Yes.
that could be easily analyzed by both partners, both players, and yet, well, one is sometimes stronger than another one. In many cases, one is always stronger than another one. Depends on the elo points difference. But even in grandmasters battles, we see like one grandmaster who is maybe not has so much higher elo, but consistently beat the other player. And what's happened? What does he see? The market, how you call? Oh, Milan actually contributed a lot. He's mentioning a theory of market efficiency. How does he call it? Jim, do you remember?
I don't remember, but there is the it's an old idea that he's expressing that the market everything is priced according to the knowledge that's already out there and available, and that so everything is priced accurately. And of course, this is a belief that's based on just purely rational, and and with chess, we know that you have all the information. The board is there for both players to see, so it's not a question of information, it's a question of what you do with that information. And for example, a grandmaster might know many more positions than I do and how to proceed just, without thinking. And there are some positions that a player of my caliber are very comfortable in, know how to play. And other positions, other types of pawn structures, for example, that I'm not as comfortable with, and I'm not sure exactly how to proceed. So I have to think and think and think and come up with a new idea rather than just instinctively play. And this is true in the market as well. When you see certain things come together, it's time to act. And other times there's confusion and you're not sure how to proceed. And the real market wizards know how to proceed in more cases than the average investor does.
Well, it's interesting that let's call them chess wizards, people like Kasparov, Magnus
Yeah.
Carlsen. In women, it's obviously Judith Polgar.
Yes.
It was one study done probably 25 years ago, somewhere in Kasparov was a world champion and was still very active. What they've done is they presented 500 diagrams to a set of 10 grandmasters and see how many of them they know. Kasparov knew 486 position out of 500.
Unbelievable. Wow.
And second was Judith Polgar. but she knew 422 positions. So this, and then many other grandmasters. Now, what happening here is that there was a complete domination, complete superiority of Garry Kasparov just to the knowledge. So his talent, the part of his talent was his tremendous knowledge of different chess positions and what to, of course, do in these positions.
Yes.
Uh,
You know, I first really became conscious of this in 1995. I had a tournament in San Francisco that Robert Hubner played, and I was talking to him after a game, and he was very frustrated that he didn't win the game, and he said, "Well, so and so just doesn't understand this type of position," and I thought, "Oh my goodness, you know, he's talking about another grandmaster." And it was an ending with a certain pawn structure, a certain piece configuration, and it wasn't that he had the better chances. It's just that he knew he understood the position better, and it was frustrating to him that he didn't exploit that. So this knowledge base is something that we take for granted. We think that all grandmasters have the same knowledge base because they're all elite players, but it's not true. And you separate somebody like Kasparov, who I put as the top player in chess history when I first wrote Chess for Dummies, and I think that he has an incredible talent, and his insights are novel and unique, but also he has processed so much information. And we think in the United States, we always said our champion was Bobby Fischer, and he knew the games of the past masters so well that
yes.
Not just the current what's going on in the best players of the day, which he also knew better. He subscribed to Russian magazines, and he knew more. He had more information than the rest of us did because he worked at it so hard.
So I would imagine that if Fischer would participate in that study where Kasparov knew so many positions, I think Fischer would be close probably to Garry.
I agree.
If, of course, if we are not talking about the position from the future chess, which Bobby wouldn't know,
right?
But other than that, he would know most of the positions. Probably he would compete with Garry for a number of the positions. So now I remember it's what Milan talked about was efficient market theory.
Yes.
So it is believed that if you take a market as a whole or any stock, all information available about that stock or the market as a whole is in the price of that stock. So now, let's see if that's true. Let's assume that it's true. So there is no reason for anybody to buy stock or to sell stock for the same reason, because all information, it is a fair market value. Let's see Microsoft now. What is it? 385, right? This is the fair value of the stock. So it cannot move any higher or any lower. So why would anybody trade in Microsoft stock? Based on what?
Yeah, it's absurd on its face because, the stock prices are never entirely accurate. They reflect the consensus of the investors, and the consensus of the investors is sometimes wrong. It overvalues certain stocks and it undervalues certain stocks. So it's not that all the information is rationally applied equally, like the market efficiency theory would imply. It's that the consensus of the investors has settled on a number.
But you see, the interesting enough, he goes much farther than that. He's talking about in each transaction, somebody is buying and somebody is selling that stock. One is a fool, and another one is so one of them is 100% wrong. One is right, and one is wrong. So if that makes whole situation even the more absurd. So let's see, there is somebody bought Microsoft at 385, and somebody sold. So tell me who is right and wizard, and who is a fool, and who is 100% wrong. You don't know that until next movement of the stock. So the stock moves to 386. So one who sold, he is a fool, he is an idiot. But why? He is in the camp of efficient market theory. So he believes that at 385, everything is built into the price of that stock. So okay, so he sold because he had, say, he said he had 5,000 shares of Microsoft. So he sold 1,000. He believed because he acquired it. Maybe his price is 225. So obviously he's sitting on a huge profit. So he unloaded 1,000. So but it went to 386. So he lost just $1,000 in a moment. He's a fool. He's an idiot. In fact, he made a huge profit on buying it several months ago at 225 and
But
selling
that's
at
it.
385.
Yes, you have to know what your own abilities and expectations. Like if I've doubled my money, I don't feel like a fool if I sell a stock and it goes higher. I feel like, wow, I doubled my money. And I also in chess, when someone could point out that, hey, Jim, you won the game, but you had a better move here. And I'm thinking, it doesn't really matter to me that I didn't play the perfect game. What I did do is steer a game into a path that I knew I could win. I was comfortable in converting the win in this position. And if I played a different move, perhaps the computers would tell me it was superior, but I might not have been comfortable in that position. I might not have calculated properly. I might not have found my way. So sometimes the decision that you make, if you know what you're doing, is the best decision for you.
Especially it's evident, so let's call it efficient chess theory.
Uh-huh.
So let's see if you take any game and with more or less equal position, and you take computer evaluation. Computer shows white is plus 0.6. So what would you assume is that white has a fairly small advantage, and most likely it's not sufficient enough to win the game, but at least you're not in danger of losing most likely, and you can reasonably continue the game with expecting certain result. Now, if you're talking about advantages, say 1.2. Now, 1.2 is already something. It's
More
means that
tangible.
black has to work really hard to equalize, and you have actually very good practical chances.
Yes.
So, as an efficient chess theory, at the valuation of 1.5, black would have to resign and white will win simply because it's too large advantage. Is
Yeah.
that you agree with that?
No, I don't, because I have defended lost positions many times and have come out victorious. And my favorite annotation in the informant codes we used to have a question mark for a very dubious move, but an exclamation point followed by a question mark was my favorite type of move to play
Hmm.
because usually it rattled my opponent. And if it rattled my opponent because it wasn't necessarily 100% sound,
I
but
think it's an unexpected effect.
it
That's
had
what that move
that,
creates.
yes, and that effect can change the dynamic of the game, and only humans can sense that. And
Yeah.
computers are useless in that. They can say that the evaluation went from plus zero point 0.1 to minus zero point 0.1, and that's useless information to me. Did the exclamation question mark move have the desired effect on my opponent or not?
Hmm. Very, very well. So I think this chess game on a very high level, it's overly analyzed. The computers analyzing very deep in some lines, going into 15, 20 moves, if not more. Um, it's more interesting situation in women's chess, and I don't understand why. Because do men have better memory and memorizing computer lines better than women? I don't think that they have better memory capacity. I think women are naturally more fighters at the board than analyzers. They don't care so much about memorizing these computer lines as going and sit and actually fight each position, and they enjoy the fight. The grandmasters on a very top level, I don't think they enjoy the fight. They're always scared that their opponent analyzed
It's
far.
interesting to me. Um, I don't know if I have frozen.
No, no, you're okay now.
Okay. I think that we need a wider base to draw conclusions, because certainly in the United States, it's only been in the last generation that women have been participants on an equal basis. And so, I think if you widen the base, then the top gets higher, and you'll see stronger and stronger women in the future in this country. I know that in other countries, women have participated more freely, but my background tells me that the type of women that fought their way to the top were fighters, because they came up with a lot of strikes against them. There was, the majority of males in the room, and when they would walk in the room, they would turn their head and look at them. They were noticed. So there was always a spotlight on them that wasn't on the average chess player who walked into the room. And so they were fighters by nature. But that might change now. You might see a lot of different types of women coming into the game and staying in the game, which is also something that we experience. Is they would get in the game when they're young and leave, but they might start staying now, and you might have more analytical type women staying in the game. But this is for the future to tell us. I don't know.
Agree with you. I think that the women, they are staying and playing chess more for enjoyment of the game than anything else. Because even now, the financial rewards are still well below men's tournaments. So obviously, they are staying to enjoy themselves, to enjoy the fight, to enjoy the game. That's for sure. So I think, in fact, that provided that you are right and the base will be wider, more stronger women will appear. We will see very interesting phenomena when the best women will be able to battle the best men, but they will play different type of chess, in my opinion. They will be playing enterprising, over the board games that they know something about this position, but they not overly analyzed with computers or so on. And that will be kind of, I hope, fresh development in a game, because right now they all analyzing same lines, they're playing all the same openings. If you want to distinguish games of Giri against Vishelagraph and Nepa and many others, they will be playing same opening, same Spanish Ruy Lopez, sometimes Berlin, sometimes Italian game, all the same openings. They overanalyze, and in fact, the fresh development is a Carlsen playing just finished tournament where he was playing all kind of weird openings. He was playing, I think, he played Polish defense in one of the games to please Polish organizers. D4, B5. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So he is throwing his opponent right from the opening book, and so he has to start to be creative how to use it, and so on. And the
Yeah.
D5
I always admired Nakamura for moves like 1 E4, 2 Queen H5. It was like,
yeah. Well, actually,
anything that gets you out of the book.
it's very deep positional move, by the way. Forget about the checkmate on F7. It's
Yeah, right.
okay, you develop your piece, you attack in E5 pawn.
E5,
The guy has to play most likely knight C6, you play bishop C4. Now we are talking. Now here's just checkmate on F7.
And you hope someone plays knight F6.
Yeah. Well, actually, people naturally, especially if it's speed game, most likely they will play knight F6.
But what you're pointing out, Sasha, is what we used to call style. We used to be able to identify players' games, and they had a certain style. And we used to know, you could look at a game score and you say, that looks like Bent Larsen, or that looks like somebody's type of game. And we can't do that anymore. They are pretty much indistinguishable.
Now, Bent Larsen was not the strongest grandmaster in his time. He was probably in top 5 in his best days, but his games were absolutely unique. He played different openings, and sometimes he paid for it, like in a game against Spassky in a world team match. Russia against the rest of the world. Yeah. Now, but again, if you take games of Yefim Geller, they're so different from Smyslov. The game
Yeah.
of Bronstein are so different from Korchnoi. For example, there are so
Or
deep,
Oliver
deep.
Botvinnik. It was like
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah. It's a marvel that they had such ability to express themselves.
And it
Open
doesn't apply
source.
just to Russia because Reshevsky had very different style from Fischer, for
Yes.
example, and Porter's style was very different from, let's see, somebody from that part of the world, say Hubner, maybe. So that was a name of a grandmaster would suggest a certain style, certain game, certain level now. Today, the name doesn't say anything.
Uh-huh.
They're all playing the same games. They're all playing the same openings because the programs what they're using Stockfish 18. So this guy uses Stockfish 18, and this guy is using version. So the only real competition between them is that this guy worked many more hours and allow computer continue to explore certain line until move 22, and this guy stopped at move 20 and went to the bar to have a beer. So this guy analyzed two moves more than this guy, so he's
Yeah.
got an advantage.
Well, I used to like to analyze players that especially when their style was similar to mine. And like for example, I loved Yasser Seirawan's games. I understood. I couldn't play as well as he did, but his thinking was, I understood it and could explain his moves. And someone like Shabalov, I couldn't explain his games. And Seirawan was probably the stronger player, but they're both great grandmasters. But Shabalov's moves were of a different style, and I didn't quite understand it as well.
Shabalov's style, in my opinion, are similar to Shirov, and they're both from Latvia, from Riga.
Another person I couldn't explain his games. Yes.
Yeah. I think they're both very tactical players,
Right.
and they create positions that may not be even familiar well to themselves, but they're unfamiliar to their opponents. And
To
now
me,
start,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think even if they knew they were slightly worse, they didn't mind because the position was
absolutely,
unfamiliar.
yeah, and the position
Very
was
careless.
they were creating were very full of surprises, the tactical wizardry, and they were very suited to their style, and they didn't care about it. They didn't look at on computers this position because they have their computers right there.
Yeah, I really admired their games. I just couldn't follow. I couldn't, like, I would stop on the demo board and look at their game, and I would go, I'm not sure who's winning. Whereas I would look at a game from Seirawan and I would be able to say, Seirawan's winning, or Seirawan's got the worst of it. I would usually be able to understand it. And so, this is a question. And now what you're saying, and I will second it, is that now it's less likely to know the type of position tells you what the type of player. It's not as easy to say, okay, this guy is a tactician, or this guy is a positional player, or this guy likes to grab a pawn and hold it, or that kind of thing. It's like the games have a certain similarity up until like move 20. And
But even then,
where anyone has a chance to express themselves.
I'll tell you one thing. I wish it would happen. Let's see, Giri, не помнящий, whoever is playing in all those tournaments, Duda,
Wesley So, Caruana. Yes.
So, Giri, Caruana, yeah. Let's see all of them. So let's see 5 GMs. They will all publish at the same time book my best my memorable 60 games. And you will buy all those 5 books and you will go through all the games. Jesus Christ, they're places.
They'll start at move 20. The diagram to move 20, and then that's where they begin.
Absolutely. It's a very different experience from studying Fischer's. My 60 memorable games. I think it's still one of the best, if not the best.
My copy is so battered, Sasha. I don't know how many times I played through those games. And, he had a very fixed opening repertoire.
Yes.
which was you would think it was easy to study and exploit and play for, but he just knew it. His knowledge was so deep that it was impossible to surprise him. Or his understanding was also matched his memory, and it was like if you did play a move that he wasn't familiar with, he understood the position so that he would play the proper response.
In order to fight his strategies, you need unique fighter, for example, like Geller, who was exceptional student of openings.
Yeah.
And he analyzed Fischer's lines so deep and found such a great resources that he could, in fact, defeat Fischer a few times.
And the other fighter of that nature was Korchnoi, although I don't think he was as deep an analyst as Geller.
It was later, not at the time of Fischer. Korchnoi became much deeper after Fischer stopped playing. But Korchnoi was quite successful in resisting Fischer, but it was mostly on board he was able to prevail. But they played a very few games, only two.
That's true. And they were slightly different.
I mean, no, 4 games, there are two draws and two results in games.
Yeah, Geller was more of a peer and contemporary, and he did have a positive score. But most people, they would psych themselves out before they would lose the game before they sat down. They just couldn't bring their best against someone who they knew was going to be such an oppressive force. Sitting down against someone like that, it was same thing with Tal. Like, remember, Benko would have sunglasses,
yes,
because he didn't want Tal's stare to intimidate him.
Yes.
So all of these psychological elements, the computer's engines, they don't factor them in.
What I was very surprised by the game, I think it was Fischer-Najdorf, where Fischer played h3 on move 6 in Sicilian defense. And this is such a sharp opening. Each tempo is so important.
Right.
So normal continuation, bishop c4 or bishop g5 or something. And all of a sudden Fischer plays h3. It's a loss of tempo. It's not the way how it should be played. Apparently, it's a start of a very deep positional plan. In fact, the idea is to bring bishop on g2, the castle, then g4, and then g5. Knight has to go away, so d5 square is becoming very vulnerable. After black would play, say, e5 at some point. So this is very, very deep opening preparation, and very, very subtle and very unexpected. And okay, I'm not suggesting that Najdorf in that age was a great theoretician, but still he was practically, he was a very strong player.
Yes.
And so I think Najdorf was very happy to see h3.
You think the pressure's off, yeah.
But how to make a draw? Yeah. After h3, you can't make a draw.
The other thing I admired about Fischer was that he would mine the ancient games. By ancient, I mean like 19th century games, where he would find an old idea that had fallen out of fashion and reinvigorate it, reinvent it.
So this is another example of efficient chess theory.
Yeah.
How Fischer came up with the move h3. So this position is known for ages. So everybody is playing bishop c4 or bishop g5. The end of story. So you have to analyze what black will play on bishop c4, what black will play on bishop g5, but what black will play on h3.
Yeah. And also, Sasha, it was one of the frustrating things about chess was that somebody would be someone like Fischer. Like all of a sudden, there were so many players that had Fischer's repertoire. It was all King's Indians and all Sicilian Najdorfs and all, everybody board after board after board, So I couldn't stand playing into those types of positions because I wasn't interested in how much homework you had done. I wanted to know how good a chess player are you. So I just wanted to get it out of the opening alive with chances for both sides. That's the only goal that I had. And creating, they weren't the most dynamic opening systems, but I used to use things that Larson would use, and because people didn't know them. And that was my best way to get an advantage, was to play something that someone didn't know, so that the market efficiency wasn't a question. there wasn't an adequate amount of information for these people. Because if you played into their wheelhouse, your chances were less than, if you got them fighting on even ground.
Okay, Jim, listen, I would like to thank you so much for today's program. And
Always my
I
pleasure.
think when next on Wednesday on Modern Investing, we'll have Milan with us, and we'll ask him everything what he knows about the efficient market theory,
Yes.
and we'll discuss it.
Well, we can't team up on them. I like both of your ideas. So
I know. Oh, by the way, you know that Jim Cramer, he named his dog NVIDIA.
Oh, really?
The best story I've heard.
The dog must be very happy.
Jim, thank you once again. Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you on Chess Show next week, Friday or not, Saturday, and on Wednesday for Modern Investing. Welcome.
See you then, Sasha.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.